generally when you see a high rating performance, you're expecting a high KD to go along with it, but Donk just had this game against Vitality where he ended with a -1 KD, but got nearly a 1.2 rating. He ended with 1.18 rating. I don't want to take a look at how that's possible, what actually leads into that to allow that to happen. And in this game, Donk actually plays E-Box, which is not particularly the most high-octane position, especially with the way Spirit play it. Because Spirit play it against Vitality here, they don't really go overly aggressive for picks. They're not really peeking deep canals or anything like that. They're mostly just using the utility, trying to waste time on the clock and allow the rest of the map to work. So we'll try and take a look at more than just Donk, but really look at how Donk managed to do so well, rating-wise, and apparently have quite a bit of impact while not going positive. So here, Donk and ZywOo, this is like their signature at this point, dually armor on piston round, especially inside E-Box. It's just, with dually armor here, you can still die, you know, for the first pick, but once you get one, it's so easy to convert into like 2 or 3, whereas with a USP, you get overwhelmed with the USP so much more consistently, right? So dually's in this spot. If you can hit the first shot, which, okay, he can't. If you don't get jumping glocked by Mezzi, you're in a pretty decent spot to turn it into a multi-kill in that situation. And then Zontix, 1v3. They basically know where he's coming from, so their whole team is staring at him right now, which is hilarious. But, I mean, what's he going to do here? He's got to try to clear ZywOo, but ZywOo's got a P250. And it's interesting, ZywOo, known for the dualies and the P250. And on the other end, you have Shiro, kind of known for the P250 in a similar way to ZywOo, and then Donk, known for the dualies in a similar way to ZywOo. But anyways, it's just a full USP eco here. Maybe Donk could get 1 kill, but with the split coming in, it's actually Chopper that gets the kill. I mean, they're not really expected to get anything. 1 or 2 kills. I mean, 2 kills is generally a successful full eco. They got 1, which is fine. And then they do get Donk onto a full buy here, actually. Even with head armor. Well, one of the nice things about if you do buy Galils and Mac 10s on round 2, you actually end up forcing the CTs to buy head armor in that situation. But anyways, just the way you're going to see E-Box played, you know, if you're used to playing this game or this map in pugs and matchmaking, you're used to being like, hey, why did Donk throw an E-Box smoke, and then Magic's, why he just dropped him his smoke and Donk's going to throw another one? When in my games, my B main player constantly asks me to throw my smoke. He says, bro, why did you waste your smoke E-Box? I need a smoke B main. It's not how you're supposed to do things, guys. Stop asking for fucking B main smokes. What you're really intended to do is you're intended to use your bring your op over to B sometimes, so you prevent your opponents from just working a pick into B. That does become problematic, but really nice double molly to push Donk out. It gives full E-Box control right over to Vitality, and it traps Donk behind the site. If there was only 2 players here, this would be an absolute disaster. Even with 3 players, there's still not a ton of positions for Spirit to be playing from, and it's just going to be individual, right? If they can actually line up some multi-frag from all these positions. But really nice trading from Mezzi. I mean, he's just in a good spot. All of Vitality isn't like forcing the bomb plant here. They know there's CTs that are going to have to be peeking out soon, so they're just kind of looking around waiting for that play to be made, with multiple players ready to quickly react off of the contact. You know, they're not all standing in the open where they can get shot at the same time. They're standing, you know, in positions where they can quickly pivot to make contact after they see the initial contact. But here, Zontix doesn't know where ZywOo is. He knows where the bomb planter is. He has to have gone behind the site, but he doesn't know where Sphinx is, rather. He doesn't know where the second player is. So once the player behind the site makes contact, he's basically screwed, right? Anyways, round 4, and again, it's E-Box, okay? It's E-Box, guys. It's, what are you expecting? You know, he's going to be here. So what I was saying last round is that one of the things you want to be doing if you're, you know, playing B main, or playing B, you need to bring your Opera over sometimes to prevent your opponents from just working a pick into B, right? Because what happens a lot in pugs is that their riflers, if you're never playing an op or B, or if your riflers just suck, or if your opper just sucks, or you just never have an op because you're down 7-0 because it's a pug, right? your opponents just have no reason not to just duel you into B, right? And if that's happening, and if they're winning that consistently, you need to... Having the op there is just like the easiest way, but you can play lots of setups. Like, you're going to see some setups probably from Spirit here where Donk and Magix are going to be both rifling, and they're going to be trying to play together to fight if there is a single rifle lurk. But generally, you know, one of the easiest ways, either double op, right, is a great idea, but just bringing an opera over sometimes, just so your opponents are scared about it, right? One of the problems with bringing an opera over is sometimes it can feel a little bit harder to aggress into B main. Like right now, you've got Vitality taking A main control, and one of the typical responses would be to aggress into B main off of this, but you probably need a third player here to do that in general. But especially with only 2 players, one of them has an op, it makes it kind of awkward to go for the aggression. Not because, like, an op pushing here and a rifle behind is fine. The problem is that the leaving E-box to get there, the gap is kind of large in this situation. There's a big gap where you could just get completely run over. One of the things is Chopper hears quite a bit going on. So, are they? Yeah, okay, so Zywoo's going to push Donk out of E-box. Donk's just going to go for the frag. And once he kills Zywoo and nobody else goes there, he's just got the immediate read. It's like, yeah, okay. If they're going B here, there's a second player, right? Zywoo wants to clear this out because if they were going B, right, they would clear this out in exactly this way. The problem is they would have a second player there as well. So again, once Zywoo dies, they're looking to throw, it looks like they're looking to throw a very heavy, like a heavier B fake. But once Zywoo dies, it looks like they know, like, okay, the jig is up. We've got to go A. But then that leaves Spinks just on a complete island with nothing to do. So, I mean, Donk so far is 2 and 4. On the gun round, that kill on Zywoo was actually pivotal because I didn't see the utility Spirit on the A side through, but once he gets that kill into Zywoo, if he communicates that there's no second player, then his team can start dumping utility on the other side. So even the other side of the map is going to be impacted by him getting that 1 kill. So that is relatively impactful, right? But that's not going to show up in the stats, right? One of the biggest correlations between for rating seems to be kills per round. The more kills per round you get, generally, the higher your rating is going to be. Rating 1.0, someone told me it was KD was the major factor, kill to death ratio. Rating 2.0, I've been told it's kills per round is the most important factor, but I'm not really clear on that. All right, so this is an interesting one, because in this case, they're already down 4v5. Anubis is already a T-sided map. So what are you going to do when you're down players? Well, you can get aggressive, but especially when you're down players, and especially against a team like Vitality, they're probably going to be holding kind of ready for that and ready to react. Like, for example, if you double push B main, Vitality might quickly make their way over to A. They can go for a quick A split. They're ready to react. They're either going to be heavily holding an area or they're going to be ready to react the other direction off of that contact. So one of the options you can go for is, instead of getting aggressive, you just go for a bit of a gamble stack. And those are really effective, especially when you're double opping, because if your opponents try and like suss out where your stack is, right? Like, what are you holding? They're just going to walk right into an op. So you basically force them to exec into your sites, in which case, you know, they can't really go back from that. They can't really go back from an exec. You figure out that it's a stack once you're in the site. So here, you have to run away from Zontix, and then Donk just moves directly into that same exact position to get the kill. I think that player might have even heard Zontix run away or seen it, so Donk caught him completely off guard, which is just another solid round from Donk. I mean, that's generally what you're expecting from Donk, right? The crazy part is how he ends up going negative, right? His aim seems like it's doing just fine. It's funny, I actually, in my video on how Vitality counters Donk, I've gotten several comments that are like, this isn't relevant anymore. Vitality played Spirit again and Donk did just fine, right? Which is this series. And Donk did do okay. It was below average for Donk's standards, especially having a negative KD game. But you guys, I just need people to realize, you play against Donk, you know, like a simple Zywoo, Nico, Monacy. You play against these top players, these all-time talents. There is no counter that counters them all the time. I wish I had my face cam on so I could look at you guys right now. There is no counter that counters them 100% of the time. It's a numbers game, guys. All you can do is you can build up some counters that you know you can try and exploit their tendencies, especially with like Donk. I think he's still young. He's still kind of like in his fucking hot girl summer or whatever. I don't know. He's in his era, man. He's in his prime. He's not in his prime yet. He's coming up. I think players like Donk that are kind of like bursting onto the scene this way tend to have some tendencies that you can see and you can try and exploit. And they're going to pull it back over time, right? They're going to be able to see that, oh yeah, this thing that I do, I need to do it a little bit less. I need to like bring that back, even though it's really effective. When I have great teams that try and counter me, it can be problematic. That doesn't mean it's not still going to fucking work a lot of the time. The thing is, if you don't try to counter Donk, if you don't try and exploit his tendencies and take him out, you're never gonna, he's just gonna dominate you, right? But just because you try to deal with him doesn't mean it's gonna work all the time, right? I don't know, those comments, I was like, dude, you can clearly see how Vitality tried to deal with Donk. Like, just based off, I don't know. Anyways, I saw, the other thing is you can see his fucking aim is insane right now, right? Like, the fact that he's hitting shots like that and ends this game negative KD, god damn, dude. Okay, so there was a Reddit thread that was saying Donk didn't seem that impressive mechanically. Not, well, he seemed impressive, of course, he's one of the best players in the world, but like compared to like Simple or Nico. I also thought that was crazy. I thought I was taking crazy pills because like I saw someone saying I posted it on Twitter and a bunch of people were like agreeing, and I was like, what? Bro, what? That last round is a great example. Like, yeah, I mean, Donk isn't hitting 360 no-scopes all the time, but he is hitting some fucking crazy shots still. He's like, his movement and his consistency is unbelievable. I wanted to look at this because it looked like flames through. This is a cool flash. So that's a flash. If Donk was peeking aggressively, I guess that full blinds him there. I think that's the point. Yeah. Oh, that's sick. So even if he's holding this, that would blind him, it looks like. That's fucking sick. Okay, that is a sick flash. Okay. So Donk gets pushed off of E-Box. Generally, as I've said many times, the places you don't want to fight most when you're playing against, you know, upgraded pistols or just Nico in general are places like E-Box, where if you die, they can retrieve your guns. Now, you will see teams double up in E-Box sometimes because there's levels to it, right? Like, to some extent, of course, you don't want to fight in E-Box because you can die in E-Box and lose your gun. But you can't never do that. If you never do that, they're just gonna take it for free, right? One of the solutions is a lot of teams will be willing to take these duels sometimes and catch them in these longer range spots on these rounds. If you're doing that against a player like Zywoo, suspect. Now, when I was talking about Donk not having the most impressive mechanics, this is what I'm talking about. I mean, that you would never see that from Nico, okay? I honestly don't know what he was doing there. It looked like he was just messing around, like he was just having fun with it because he was like, oh, we won this round anyways. I'm gonna kill him anyways. Like, and then all of a sudden he died. It's like those games. Have you ever had a game where you're up like in MR15? You have a game where you're up like fucking, you know, like 14-3, and then or like let's say 12-3, and then you just start fucking around. You just start fucking around, and then it's like 14-10, and you're like, I gotta take it serious now, but you can't. You're incapable now of taking it serious. It's like the game is just a meme, and you end up losing. Those are the best. That's what I don't know how that even relates. Okay, I mean, this is all that Spirit is doing. They're like, they've got the remolly, and I really like this, by the way. Okay, yeah, he's gonna find the timing. So, look, they've got one molly. Donk has dropped an extra molly. So the molly comes in from Zywoo, which is the same thing we saw in the previous gun round where Zywoo did it alone. He mollied it out, then he tried to take it. Here, you've got Donk is going to throw his molly, and the T-side mollies last longer. So Zywoo wants to get in quickly after that molly, after the CT molly goes down. And what's Donk going to do? He's going to toss it down right after. And you can see, I think the perfect timing is to toss the molly down that lands behind that molly just before. But that molly does a ton of damage, and he gets Mezzied at 3 health. I don't think ADR counts for rating, though. I think it's only kills? I'm not 100% sure, but he does a ton of damage. I think the point is, I think the optimal way to throw this molly, if you could like have the perfect molly. So you toss down 1 molly, and then I think what you want is you want the second molly, as this first molly is still up, but there's like a second left. I think you want the second molly landing here. Wouldn't that be like perfect? Because then they have to back all the way up, or they're like, if they're close, they like wanted to push through. I think the way Donk throws this is also right, but I think he might have been trying to throw it so, because it looks like he wants it to land behind, but he throws it just after it dissipates. But that looks kind of intentional. But that does end up, look, I mean, ZywOo and Mezzi both run through the molly to get into E-box. Then they're completely trapped. And then is Chopper actually going to nade this too? Yeah, Chopper's even going to toss a nade in there. So they're just like getting lit up. Then they can smoke B main, and Chopper and Donk can double focus on E-box. That's like flawless. That's exactly what you want. But the problem is, even with that much utility dominating Vitality, they still go, what do they go? Yeah, they go 2 for 1. They kill Chopper and Donk and only lose ZywOo. That's like, yeah. I feel like Spirit just had the perfect setup there. Like, that's why you want to hold on to your smokes as much as possible, because a lot of what the T side is doing early on in the round on Anubis is they're trying to take a bit of control. They might take control of A main. They might try and push you off of middle. But one of the main things they want to do is they want to draw out your utility on your A player and your B main player. If you don't draw out the smoke on the B main player and you try and go back B late and they just have their smoke and they just smoke you off, you're just so fucked. All right, so I mentioned earlier, I was talking about like Donk and Magic's playing, you know, you'll have double rifle setups where you're playing together. This type of kind of angle where you're kind of one below and one above the other player is great. But this is the problem. Even these types of setups, you know, ZywOo's going to be walking in here. If he hits his shot, he should be able to get a kill. This is why you want to have an Opera here a good portion of the time, right? To prevent this type of walk-in play. Now, these walk-in plays are great, especially if you remember the previous round, they had that re-smoke for B main at like 20 seconds, 30 seconds left in the round, right? They had that B main re-smoke the whole time. So what are you going to do if you're Vitality? Well, one of the ways to try and pull that out is to make your opponents more scared of this type of play. So you lead in with ZywOo, and if you're, you know, especially because Spirit here, I think they're not on the greatest buy of all time. I mean, they won a few rounds, but they won one with 1, and then they lost one. They don't have a ton of money. They do have an op, but I think Donk didn't have full utility. No, I think he just tossed it on E-box. So it seems like they had a pretty solid buy, actually. I was thinking maybe they didn't have the greatest buy, so they wouldn't have like the smokes. They're trying desperately to hold on to their smokes, but you know, they're trying to play above and below each other so they can double fight any riflers. I think Donk just saw, did Donk see his shadow or something there? I don't even know if you can see a shadow there. I think I might just be seeing things because of the x-ray. Anyways. Yeah, Zontix just unpeaks right at the exact same time ZywOo peaks. So ZywOo just gets the free kill on a Donk. But yeah, if the op leads in there, if the op hits his shot, it's hard to prevent him from getting a kill. There are like things people do. You can play the off angles. I think there's like, I've seen people boost here, but that's more of an eco boost, right? A lot of the time what you really need in that situation is you need some information elsewhere on the map. Because a lot of the time the way those plays break down is you have somewhere, you have like an A main aggression or something like that, and then you go, oh wait, hold on, they're not doing anything elsewhere, they might be setting up for that type of thing, and then you start pivoting back. That's why I talk a lot in these demos about like aggressions and then pivoting with aggressions. So you like overstack, overload B, and then you get aggressive on B while you have 3 players there, and then you pivot back, you leave 1 player, and then you overload A, and then you can even yo-yo it a little bit, right? You can do overload B, get aggressive on B, leave that player, move him over to A, get aggressive on A, and then move back. You can do that a little bit. It's like Inferno's a great one where you like take top banana control and then you rotate your third B player back to A, and then you take or you rotate 4 players to A and you take bracket control. The idea being if they're in those positions, you're overloaded on that site at the same time as you're going for that aggression. So you kind of want them to hit you. And if they're not, then you don't end up in these situations where you let them control the flow, right? You let them just walk right into the position and you have no idea where they are. Although that's inevitable. I'm not trying to say Spirit made like a misplay or anything, but I'm trying to give an example of why those plays exist and why they work. You'll notice Donk has not peeked E-Box, I don't think, a single time this game. And Donk is typically known as a player that loves him some wide swings, okay? That's what you generally know Donk as. But Vitality is a team that's... different teams play very differently when it comes to canals, like when it comes to this area. And Vitality... I'm going to say Vitality and just assume that I'm not misremembering, because I did the stats on this. There are certain teams like G2 didn't love going into E-Box all that often. Vitality, though, loves E-Box, and they love having Zywoo post on those angles, and they take those engagements all day long. If you're playing against teams that play in that area a little bit less often, I think you can feel a little more confident going for those peaks. But Vitality seemed to be committed to locking that area down, in which case you don't necessarily want to swing into Zywoo holding your angle with an AW. I think that might be the idea behind that. I haven't watched a ton of Spirit on Anubis, though. Anyways, second half incoming. Try not to think too much about the pistol rounds. Zywoo's gonna go E-Box again, isn't he? Oh, this is a nice angle too. This is like very awkward to try and deal with. And I remember it's kind of one of those spots sometimes where it's like, I know people have argued about, like, I was in a scrim one time. I was coaching a scrim and they were like, he's front pillar. And then the guy swung, but the guy swung from like E-Box. And he goes, what do you mean front pillar? And he's like, yeah, but I was calling front pillar from B main. Yeah, okay. Anyways, yeah, it's one of those spots, yeah. Okay, sorry, let me see the setup. So, Vitality's going to be tripling up B, which is, it's a pistol round. You're going to stack something. And then on A, you have, this is a good setup to deal with an A main play. But mostly when I see teams run this, they usually have a smoke on one of these players. Because if you get split from mid, which it doesn't look like is going to happen, but if you get split from mid, it gets really awkward if you don't have a smoke here. Because especially if you're in these positions. Like, this angle's cool, but what do you do if you get split from mid? I see a lot of teams will double up like this, and they're just ready to take the fights. And then if they get split from mid, this player can easily pivot behind the pillar, right? Smoke this off. This guy can be here, and this guy can be here, and you can fight like this, which is not the end of the world. That type of thing can work out. A lot of teams like to double in here and just fight, and they can fight this as the T's are coming in. There's nothing wrong with this setup. It's just, without a smoke, I would like to see what their reaction is if there's a mid to B without a smoke. B side, I've seen people complain about this before, where a team is like stacking something and the opposing team is hitting it, and then they throw a smoke, and they're like, dude, don't throw the smoke. Like, you want them to hit you because you're stacked, right? Which is true. However, especially with pistol rounds, but just in general, it seems like if you don't throw the smoke because you're stacking, well, first of all, the smoke just helps in general. You want to throw it you hopefully want to throw it once they commit, but sometimes it can be can become its own tell if you don't throw the smoke just because you're stacking. Anyways, okay, so Vitality is taking their time. Or sorry, Spirit. This is like classic Liquid. I remember I used to hate Liquid when they did this. I'm extrapolating because Liquid did this way too often on like every map. They just held pushes everywhere. Teams seem to be a lot better at it nowadays. But Liquid, like 2018, 2019, it just felt like they didn't win nearly as many pistol rounds as they should, given how good their players were. I wonder what Spirit's pistol round win rate is. I bet it's fucking insane though. All right, so you are literally seeing the mid B split. Okay, so you're not getting any aggression here, which is fine. You don't need to get aggressive, but this just feels so awkward. Like, if Mezzy was heaven, this would feel better, because Mezzy could be fighting here, and then he could even pivot back. He could fight here, and he could at least try and lock this down fully. Let's see what happens. Okay, so 2 players start running in A main. They're going to make full, like they're drawing attention. The players are coming through B main, or, through connector or camera. And Flames just gets shot in the back. And now Mezzi's trapped. I don't know. I feel like there are better ways to have played that setup. But maybe this is a setup like people play often. I just haven't seen it before. It just feels like this is literally, the problem is like, that setup's fine. Like if they come through A main, that setup's fine. They're in pretty good spots, right? But even when I see people play like this setup, this like doubled up setup here, usually they also have a player here, at least protecting mid a little bit. I don't know. Sometimes you just run into the counter your setup though. I mean, that is the reality with CT side, like, or pistol, sorry, CT pistol. You have to gamble, and sometimes you're just gonna run into the setup that destroys your setup. You know, it's just kind of reality. Anyways, so you've got this setup. This is a very common 4-spy setup. Double MP9. One of them plays anti-flash at first. Donk gets here fairly quickly and just mollying it out to clear it out. Especially that molly, the key to that one is it actually splits up. Oh my god. Okay, fuck whatever I was talking about there. What just happens here? Apex just jumps down. Apex doesn't even see him. And then he still sees to go. That's hilarious. That's fucking hilarious. Okay, that's hilarious. Alright. Yeah, I don't think Donk did anything wrong there. I was gonna say the molly, it splits them up, right? So one goes forward, one goes back because it's just in a solid spot. And then he forces the one guy out, gets himself the kill, exactly what you want to see. I mean, Donk is doing pretty well. He's like still -2 right now. And they're going to be back onto an eco as well. So we'll have to see something change. And then they've got, what is this buy? So they're going for a force, but they've dropped Donk and AK, which is like classic. Sure. Camera is my empress, is that what it said? Is that the AK name? Whatever. Okay, Zywa's gonna peek E-box. The timing is crazy, not Zywa, the Sphinx. I see the X and I think it's a Z. Okay. Yeah, so that's what I was talking about, like, on anti-eco, sometimes you'll see people peek that because you can fight T's at long range, which is really what you want. In positions where, like, if you're peeking into them, it's not the greatest for them. You can get a lot of information. So, like, with that information, if that was clear, he might, you know, they might change their setup slightly or whatever. And then they're just going to overload. So, I believe, if I was looking correctly at my radar, I believe Vitality just cleared B main, right? So, you clear B main so that you can come back and overload E-box and you can actually retrieve that gun. But they're ahead of the molly. Okay, yeah, they're just ahead of the molly. Right, yeah, they cleared B main, so B main's empty, so they can move back and retrieve this gun. They do get the gun, Chopper sees it, and then Zontix and Donk want to react quickly. Donk is just going to be playing the trade. And then that still could have gone well, that's the problem. If Zontix hadn't gotten the kill on Apex, the problem Apex didn't have his gun out, right? I was thinking that still could have gone well, because Apex easily could have doubled up there, and then with that molly, he would have been able to get away. But yeah, they just got caught in the perfect timing. I think Spirit, sometimes if you play like really good players, they'll use guns as bait. I don't even think it needs to be really good, but like as you play better and better players, right? They'll use, like, if they know you're ecoing and you've got one gun and they kill that one gun, they'll use that gun as bait and try and like catch you peeking trying to go for that gun, right? And that almost felt like a similar idea to what Spirit was doing there. They were like, you know, let's set up, and if they try to pick up that gun, we'll try and catch them before they can fall back into good spots on site after they get that gun. And if they don't go for that gun, then we'll take it. I mean, if you want to give me a free gun, why not? All right. So the A main aggression, and then Spirit's just gonna go for mid control. Donk has no say in this whatsoever. This is really just a matter of his teammates. And then they're overloading mid, so you'll see CTs do this often. You know, a lot of the time when you're getting hit by a mid B split or mid A split, a lot of the time what you'll see is teams will try and like smoke off this side and fight this side, or they'll smoke this off so they can focus this. A is pretty retakeable, so you can like do this, right? You can completely leave A just to fight in middle, and then just be like, yeah, okay. If they come through A main, well, they're gonna lose some of their players, they're gonna lose a lot of time, and we'll be able to retake A, right? It does require kills going your way, and this trade, this is awkward. I wonder, I'm interested if Vitality actually win this. Oh, they just went to the other site. That's really clever. That's really clever, actually. Okay, so I thought they were going back to A, because Donk lets his presence be known, throws a bunch of utility. What's Vitality gonna do here? They've got two options. They save, and they basically say, well, maybe they'll go back B here, and if they do, then we win, right? Which, you know, isn't crazy. But generally in this spot, you just saw two people in mid. So the general reaction, obviously, is let's go straight through the smoke. And you've got utility, so you can like right click a flash through. You can push Donk off so you can get out. And then Apex comes very close to getting that kill too. But even though Spinks does get this kill, it's right about now when he's gonna be like, they're going B, aren't they? And then the bomb gets planted. Yeah. This is a genuinely very close game, 8-8. I actually don't even remember who wins this game. I think Vitality win. I don't even want to say. I just looked at it. I just can't remember who wins this game, dude. What the fuck? Okay, so Donk even waits for a flash to clear out E-Box. Okay. Well, he really just wanted to cross over. Go for A main control. If you know Flames likes to jiggle that, like with the smoke out, I've seen teams, FaZe does this sometimes, where like fairly early on in the round, they'll lead with Brokey into here, specifically against teams that like to jiggle with the smoke there, because that's a great play, jiggling with the smoke there. He's not even jiggling with the smoke, but like that's a great play, jiggling with the smoke there, but it is sometimes exploitable. Generally, you're not going to exploit it with an AK though. You're going to hit him for like 50. Like probably if Flames had armor, he would only get hit by, you know, he wouldn't die. But then, this is what, you know, you usually have this guy with his own smoke. Okay, Donk just doesn't, he's not even given a chance in life there. Wait, does Zywoo dink him? Wait, hold on. I thought he got TK, like, team dink. I think Zywoo dinks him. Hold on, Zywoo. Where's Zywoo? No, he gets hit in the head by his teammate. Why? Okay, Zywoo got the assist, so Zywoo must have hit him in the body a couple times. Or something like that. Well, anyways. Yeah, that's the problem with going through that smoke. That's why that smoke is so effective, even if you're alone, right? If there's a second player there, and they can't know if there's a second player there, you can get fucking destroyed going through that smoke. A lot of the time, what you really want is if you see that smoke, you, the easiest way to deal with smokes like that now, not that they're easy to deal with, but if you're trying to deal with smokes like that, right-click one flash into the smoke and then throw one flash through the smoke so they basically know where they can be looking at. And then you have the first guy jump out just as that flash, just before it blows up, so that, you know, and especially one of the keys, by the way, one of the keys that I'll say a million times, I'll keep saying, don't run your whole team out through the middle of a smoke. Generally, what you want is you want one guy going left and one guy going right. In most smoke positions, like here, for example, one guy can go left, one guy can go right. It's a little bit these aren't the best examples because, like, you know, you might want two people going left because someone here could get both kills or something. There's lots of angles you have to be worried about. Like coming out here, you're worried about a bunch of extra angles. But generally, with all things being equal, like Banana on Inferno especially, you know, you're really thinking one on the left, one on the right, especially if you know someone's close. But generally with smokes like that, you want someone to be close up more often than not. So you make it impossible for them to multi-frag by making it so they have to flick 180 to get both kills, right? Okay, Donk is 12 and 13, but he's still got like the most damage on his team, right? He's got 90 ADR. Which is like, it's crazy what a bad Donk game is. It's like bad Donk game. Still 1.2 rating. Okay. He's leading in. These are like reasonable engagements. This is why Anubis is so T-sided. So many of these engagements are relatively, well, this is one of the reasons. So many of these engagements are relatively T-favored, so you can actually just duel out in a lot of positions. especially if you know your opponents aren't opping. That's the thing. If you know your opponents just don't have a ton of money, which I think they know that Vitality doesn't have a ton of money, you can do so much on the map that just is so uncomfortable to deal with for CTs. And the CTs either have to just gamble and just hope that they get the right timings or get aggressive. Really nice timing on the nade here, too. Really nice timing on the nade. And, I mean, Donk is, like, never really even given a chance. I mean, he could maybe get that kill, but not only was that nade well-timed, the nade didn't blow up the whole smoke. So it looks like Donk didn't even see Zywoo there, but Zywoo saw Donk. So it's like the worst situation to be in for Donk. You cannot blame him for that at all. All right, here's the smoke. I like the response, nade molly, just prevent the aggression. Don't go through that smoke. I see people jump through that smoke like fucking lunatics. It's okay if your opponents take some control. I almost feel like this area is kind of like bottom mid on Inferno. It's actually like, I really feel like it. It's like a death trap. I remember like in early on in Inferno, teams loved, in CSGO, teams loved to get aggressive and like push down middle. And then they would just sit there. And then eventually you just get cleared out. Like you get cleared out. People still, they love sitting in those areas on Anubis. I guess the idea being like you have so much control of everything and it's already a T-sided map. Like maybe it's just worth it to like just take that risk. But to me, it just feels like every time I see a player get aggressive there, they end up dying. Like they end up dying. Max they get is 1. Max they go 1 for 1. Max. They just usually end up just getting cleared out because the angles just don't feel that good. Although, to be fair, like, if you smoke here, if you could be here, like, some teams love getting into this angle, and then you have a guy here. That makes it very awkward to try and clear out, but I don't know. Every time in the pro scene, okay, in Pugs, every time I see someone get there, they get, like, 5 kills, okay? They kill the whole team crossing mid, and everyone's like, what the fuck just happened? Okay, in the pro scene, I feel like every time I see a player go there, they sit around and then they die and maybe they get 1 kill. So yeah, this is this is the problem with getting aggressive. You could run into their whole fucking team. Guys, did you know doctors hate them? One simple trick to dealing with CT aggression. Have your whole fucking team there. Amazing. Oh, what a play. I mean, CS2 does feel like, to some extent, like, there's a lot of variables, especially because as the game has evolved, teams have gotten more and more, I think the game has gotten less and less defined by, in the moment, like, reads, like, soul reads of, like, exactly the play they're going to make this round. You have to play by the numbers, essentially. You have to make the play that makes sense based on the situation, you know, and hope that that's the right situation. And you can have IGLs that are, this is a really clever setup, by the way. Zywoo holding that. Apex is in such an awkward spot to deal with. And Apex and Zontix is like, oh yeah, my team, if I die to Apex, my team's going to trade for sure. But they can't. You'll have IGLs that are great at like those soul read kind of mind game things. And I think one of those IGLs is definitely Kerrigan. Right, I think Kerrigan is one of those IGLs. However, as you move on, sometimes you know that there's tendencies, and sometimes you just have to accept, like, okay, I know that they like to do that. Let's just try this play, and then, you know, the other team. It seems like, I think Chopper seems to be one of those. He seems to be like, I don't know if I want to describe him as like, this isn't really a real term, but you'll understand when hopefully you kind of get what I'm talking about. Mind game IGLs, I don't know, that's like every IGL where you really are trying. People really underestimate it, that people that aren't IGLs underestimate how much like mind gaming and like setting, you can like set it up and then knock it down type of thing, you know, in terms of the way a half is built out. It's very complex. I don't know, it's very complex, but it takes a lot of practice. Like even people that know the game really well sometimes just they struggle picking up IGLing, you know? Some people do, some people don't. Even good secondary callers sometimes struggle because you have to understand like the cause and effect of all of your plays. And building a half out, not just because a lot of people just kind of call random stuff, right? But I mean, that's how most IGLs try and play, right? They try and build a half, and they try and like, okay, so an example, right? I've probably given this example before, but like you might play more aggressive early on in the half, and then what happens, your opponents are now going to start wasting utility. They're going to start dumping their utility early in the round because they know that you're getting aggressive early round. But then in the middle of the half, you start playing a lot more passive. And what that means is that your opponents now have less utility to fight you with later on in the round. So your late round execs are going to be a lot more effective, right? And when I say that Chopper is like a mind game IGL, I consistently see Spirit. Their opponents go for a counter to a play that Spirit that Spirit go for a lot, either in this game or just do typically go for a lot, and then Spirit is just in the perfect setup, and it's like, oh, they just tried to counter us. Joke's on you, we had 5 fucking players there. Like, I just see so consistently that Chopper seems to come out ahead of these, like, oh, they're countering something that they know that we do a lot, but we're like countering the counter. I just see it so consistently. I mean, even in the Donk, the last Donk Vitality game, right? The one I did the shorter video on, where Zai was trying to go for the B peak, knowing that Donk likes to make that certain play, and I mean, not just Donk likes to make that play, right? But and Shiro was there with the op, so nice little trade from Donk. Let's see it again. So Flames is in here. They hear him retake it, so they're going to go back on their own side. Shiro looks like he's setting up a flash, but Zontix is in ahead of the flash. And then Donk is... Again, Donk isn't crowding his teammate. I beg you. Like, level 1 is like nobody trades. I mean, this is not face of level. I mean, like, there's like 3 levels. Level 1, people don't trade. Level 2, they're so jonesing to trade that they sit right on top of you at all times. It's so annoying. So many people do that. Okay. Huh, unfortunate. So this was a really... I mean, Donk did everything he needed to do here. I got the first kill. I mean, he's just in a good trade kill position. Gets the second. It's kind of dangerous to plant because Zaiwu could already be flanking him, right? So he tries to get into the other position to plant. But obviously he's not expecting a second player to already be in the position he just got a trade kill on. That is surprising. All right, so they are again setting up for this play on B. This is very similar to the play Vitality went for, with Zaiwu leading in with 2 riflers with him. But in this case, I think because Spirit is going for this A aggression, or because Vitality is going for this A aggression, they toss that smoke down early on B to prevent this type of thing. I don't think because they had the information, but because they were going for that aggression, they know this is a likely response, a fast hit out B. And by the way, this is, funnily enough, I think this is just straight off of G2. Maybe Spirit came up with this first. I really like this as guy. This reminds me of I'm gonna show you guys sometimes. I'm gonna show it at some point because I reference it all the time and I think people don't really understand. I call them electronic execs. That's the new name. No, Navi execs. They're electronic plays. Okay. The point was that before Navi had bit, when they would go for execs, they would have execs where Flamey would run in first, and those were their normal execs, and then they would have execs where the first player is intended to get kills. And so that's this type of play, because the smoke is going to land late. The mollies go down, push people out of positions, flashes bang just as they're coming in. So the timing is that these players are being pushed out of position as the exec comes in. Like, look at this. It's like, this is like World War III for Mezzi, right? Like, let's just look at this. Let's just watch this from his POV. Okay, he nades the smoke. Nothing. He's waiting. There's a molly comes out. He tries to dodge it. He's still getting mollied. He's blind. And then he's shot in the fucking side. What? How do you play against that, dude? How do you deal with that? It's fucking impossible, dude. It's crazy. It's wild. And then, did Donk die? Donk died along the way? Somehow Donk died. Okay, so that's how Donk ends the game. He ends the game -1 and Spirit do win this. They're gonna have to go through the smoke? Do they win? They don't win this here, do they? I guess because the bomb's planted right there, he can just line it up, right? Yeah, there's 1, there's 2. Man, Shiro's a clutch master, dog. All right. So how does Donk go -1 but still have a 1.18 rating? Well, let me see. 22 rounds, 16 kills. What is that, like 0.78? 0.73 kills per round. Not exactly high. He had a couple big time multi kills. I should know how rating is how rating is defined before, so I can more easily actually know. I really think it's basically mainly played off of kills per round. But I guess Donk, he does get a lot of those because Donk, I was looking this up earlier. Okay, so in general, I was looking up how many interactions do players have throughout the round, right? Just wondering, like, what is the average number of interactions? It was actually for Nexa because I want to do a review of him. What's the general average interactions? So the average reaction for the vast majority of teams is going to be about 1.3 kills per round plus death per round. So that's how many interactions they're having on every round. Average is about 1.3. Nexa's got 1.2, right? So Nexa's on the low side. Then you've got like higher end people. Here, I'll show you actually like this. I'll pull this up because I have it on a notepad. This is just the average for the team. So the average total is 1.3 roughly for most of these teams, 6.65 for the whole team. This data is like, it's pointless that I even went and looked this up. I was just trying to see like if Nexa is just like that passive, if he's just so passive he just never even sees anybody. I was trying to look for data to support that, or to see if the data did support that. Just kidding. I was looking for data to support that, and if it didn't support that, I was never going to mention it. Get fucked. Okay, but look at fucking Donk, dude. He's higher by like a fucking orders of magnitude over anyone else. Donk, 1.62. Other stars, Zaiwu, 1.47. Monacy. You think of Monacy as an aggressive player, 1.42. Right? And then all of FaZe is that like one, pretty standard numbers, right? All of Mao's is that like fairly standard numbers. Xerxin is very high, but that's 1.41. Nobody even comes fucking close to Donk. So Donk really is basically primed and ready to be the player that gets negative KD, assuming that like it's kills per round. That is like your major factor, which I've been told it is. He is primed to be the guy that can go negative KD and still get a good rating, and he does that all the time, right? Here, I'll show you. Man, his stats are insane, but he does that all the time. So -1, that was that game we just saw. -1, -2, still above, right? Here's -1, 1.24. This is the one I was thinking of. Then he's got another, no, I thought he had one against MIBR or something. Yeah, another one. He's got one against MIBR, 1.2, 1.12, 1.20, right? That's fucking insane. Like, I don't know. Maybe I just haven't been looking at these stats, but let me look at like Nico. I bet Nico just never goes negative, does he? Nico's just like permanently positive. Nico fucking sucks. Okay, that's what I'm seeing. No, I guess everyone does this. -1, 1.12, 1.07. It's just the rating 2.0 thing. Okay. -1. I mean, yeah. Okay. So it was just it was like dude, why did the first page have to troll me like that? The first 2 games where he's -1, he's got good ratings. And then I go down and it's every other game he's got -1, he's got shit ratings. Why couldn't the first page agree with me and the pages afterwards disagree with me slightly? Dude, all of the data is saying that -1, you're going to be pretty shit if you got a negative KD, right? It's probably you're not doing that well. Pretend you didn't see that last part. Good players, turns out they can. I think it's kills per round. I really think the biggest thing is kills per round, and that explains everything. Because even if Nico can have a game where his aim is on point, plenty of kills per round, but he just gets traded pretty often. Still gets good stats, right? Anyways, fucking Donk is good, dude. Crazy.